Hi everyone, Dani here, and welcome to Spenelli Speaks. Are you surprised to see me here today? Are you surprised to see the thumbnail? Me too. I have been on somewhat of a hiatus from my channel this summer. We have had so much going on with kids' birthdays and graduations and doctor's appointments, and it just is an endless list of things. But I need to come back because I love what I do. And one of the things that I really enjoyed that I was doing before my son was born 2 years ago was giving you chapter summaries of Edward Rutherfurd's London. And I stopped because everything just hit the fan, and have been really wanting to come back to this. So if you're new here, really quickly, my bookish bestie and I, Laura from Book Bubbler, also my partner in crime with DoubleBookedCo, which is an Etsy shop you can take a look at in the description below. We read London over the course of a year. It is a chunkster of a book. It's, I think, 1,100 pages. So we read basically 100 pages every month. And then we decided to tell you all about it. And I think we got the first part done in two parts where we kind of just discussed each chapter and gave a summary of sorts. And I decided I wanted to reread the book and actually do videos of each chapter separately as a summary for anyone else that was looking into reading it, because it is pretty hefty and there's a lot that goes on. I started that a little over 2 years ago. I started a Voxer group. I got the first 5 chapters on YouTube. You can take a look at that playlist below. I will link it. And then my son was born. I had literally filmed 3 more chapters, and the very next day I went into labor. So needless to say, I was not able to edit those chapters, so I'm just going to redo them. Now, I'm going to start from where I left off, which is chapter 6, and we'll go from there. So this video that you're seeing now is me announcing that I'm coming back in full force to get this book done for you. So there will be new chapter summaries coming every Sunday. So those will be posted every Sunday. And they will start next week, Sunday, with chapter 6. Briefly, what I'll do now is just go through what we've already read, just to give you a quick synopsis in case you didn't want to run back and watch those 5 videos that are in the playlist currently that I recorded 2 years ago when I started rereading. I did go ahead and make sure I reread the chapters again, so this book is getting some action from me. But I just wanted to give you a brief summary of each chapter up to chapter 6, so that when we start fresh next week on chapter 6, we're ready to go. So the first chapter in London is called The River, and you can guess it's the Thames that we're talking about. So the big river in London. And basically this chapter starts with the primordial ooze of everything. It gives you a good layout of the land, what the land looked like, and who was living on the land. And we have those pagan and druid peoples. We have the Romans are invading, so we get the presence of Caesar trying to take over a lot of the land. And in this particular chapter, the characters, we are first meeting what we later come to call the Ducat family. And we always recognize them as the men have a white tuft and webbed fingers. So as we continue in the chapters, we continuously see that character. So that is chapter 1. So we get a good idea of the river. We get a good idea of what London looks like at this point, which is nothing. And we know that it's been tried to be conquered by Caesar. Then we jump in time. So that first chapter, the time frame is 54 BC. We go into chapter 2, which is called Londinium, and we jump to 251 AD. So Londinium is occupied by the Romans, and we have some characters. Julius, who is a descendant from that duck line, as we're going to call it at this point. And then we also have a couple of other characters that get into a little bit of an interesting, I would say, like love triangle kind of thing. So it's a fun chapter. There's action, there's romance, and we have this introduction of hidden gold. So this hidden gold becomes kind of like a family story through time. And as a reader, you are constantly wondering who is going to find this gold. And you're really hoping that it's the Ducat family. But as we go through the book, you'll find out if and when we find that out. We have a lot of talk about how the city is being built and the influence from the current inhabitants, like how the Romans added to the London architecture. Moving on and in time to 604, we have chapter 3 called The Rood. And in this chapter, we are adding to our bloodlines. So in the very beginning of the book, we have this fabulous timeline here with all of our family ties. So you have all of the family trees going down, and it'll show you each chapter and who is who. So in this first line, which starts, we have that Ducat line, and then as we continue, we start to get more different families that then we see in each chapter. So in this particular chapter, we still have our like duck line. We haven't gotten to the actual name of Ducat yet, but we're going to call them ducks because, again, they have a white tuft and the webbed fingers. And then in this one, we are introduced to what we will later know as the bull family tree. And that is with Elfgivia, which is the wife of a nobleman who is trying to please the king and to convert, and decides to convert to Christianity without really understanding what that all means. So he wants his pagan wife to convert, and she really gives him a very, very hard time throughout. And it involves some slaves, and there's a lot of misunderstanding and exciting things happen throughout that. It's seemingly a trend throughout the book. Each chapter brings some kind of unusual circumstances for its characters. But this is interesting because it gives you the idea of how Christianity really kind of came and went through and, you know, made people go with what the current king wanted. In this particular instance, it was Catholicism. So it was just interesting to see the attempts of changing the people and how little they really knew what they were doing. So it was a very interesting chapter, and I know for me, it's one that stands out quite a bit. We move further in, and in time, of course, to the Conqueror, which is chapter 4, and we're in 1066. Now, the interesting thing about this chapter is the characters that we grow to know in this chapter carry through into the next chapter, chapter 5, the Tower, which is really interesting because it's pretty unique. I don't recall if there's any other chapters in the book that have recurring characters within the same time frame. Usually the time jumps are pretty significant, but in this one it's unique because we learn all these characters and then we get to see them again in the next chapter. So in The Conqueror, we see a lot of feuding. So not only do we have war within people, so we have the current king Harold, and who took the throne after King Edward. And we have William the Conqueror, the Norman, who is coming, invading, and eventually, after the Battle of Hastings, ends up taking the throne. So in The Conqueror, you really see the people who may not like that and are trying to rebel against that. King coming in, or William the Conqueror coming in. So you see them kind of establishing alliances, and you see different families maybe creating alliances or abolishing alliances. We see the family of Silver Sleeves in this particular chapter, who, as we read, we discover that we just really do not like this family line. And I do believe that, is it in the last chapter that we first saw them? I don't believe so. I think this may be the first chapter that we meet Silver Sleeves. And it's, I can't, anywho, we don't like Silver Sleeves in most cases. But we also have a Viking, so Hrothgar the Dane, which is the family Barnacle. Barnacle coming from Bairn Nikiel, which says, "Don't kill the children." So that's where that name comes from. And so that family tree we start to see more characters come out of. So we still have our Ducat clan, our Bull clan, Barnacle, and Silver Sleeve. So the amount of characters and family lines are starting to really gain some traction here, and we see a lot more interaction between the families and how they interact. As a reader, I think you tend to empathize more with the Ducat and the Barnacle clan. The Bull clan you're kind of apathetic toward, and Silver Sleeves is definitely a family that you are watching because they are clever and very much about themselves, and they're just, evil is a very strong word at this point, but they are not good. So in this chapter, we meet Alfred, who is part of the Ducat family tree. We have Barnacle, or I believe, Hrothgar. So, but they just call him Barnacle. That he's in this, and he continues into the next chapter. And then Silver Sleeves, he's just referred like the main Silver Sleeves, and then he has two sons, Henri and Ralph, who then continue into the next chapter, and we pay more close attention to them. But realistically, this chapter is all really about establishing the understanding of the war between the king and William the Conqueror, and how that kind of came to fruition, and then the people that are trying to do something about changing that, keeping an English king versus a Danish or Norman king. So as I said, we move into chapter 5, which have the same characters. So we only move into 1078, but through this chapter, we go from 1078 and it ends in 1097. So a good span of time happens in this chapter. This chapter is quite long. It's about 75 pages long. So we get a lot of information. The chapter is called The Tower. So you can imagine what happens. So we see the forming of the tower, the rooms. If you know or have ever been to the Tower of London, it is a monument. It is amazing. I have been there twice now, and you can't see it all. Like, I can go back 100 times and I would still be happy to go and see everything that is, there, and just the history and how it was built and what was there and what it's been used for. And it's amazing. Piece of history there in London. But like I said, we have characters that have moved in from the Conqueror to the Tower. So we still have Barnacle, we still have Silver Sleeves, but more his son Ralph, who is an overseer at the Tower, and he is an odious man. He is terrible, and he really picks on most people there, but specifically a new character we come to learn, which is Osric, who is a disfigured young boy. He's like 16 at the time that we meet him. Obviously, in the 20-year span, we see him grow a little bit more, but Ralph Silversleeves is just a terrible individual, and I am very happy for all of the things that happen and occur to him throughout the story. So in the Tower, what we see here is the how time has passed with William the Conqueror, or William becoming king, and how that kind of affects the Londoners, how some become complacent and just, it is what it is, and some continue to build a rebellion. And then we see a lot of the alliances shifting, becoming stronger, becoming weaker, and we see a lot of chess play from the Silver Sleeves family. And so that is really interesting. It unfolds in a very clever way. And it's a very unique thing to watch as you're reading, and you're getting this historical kind of documentation or documentary, so to speak, of how the tower is being built. And then you have all these characters within it that are just off doing their own thing and being very human, and yet also, like, as far as the Silver Sleeves, like, just being maniacal in every aspect. We also get a mention of the Doomsday Survey, which is it's basically a census, but it's not just people, it's land, it's all of the livestock, everything. And it comes into play later on in the book, so it's something to pay attention to. Anytime an author is like, they didn't think much of it at the time, like, oh, that's going to come back much later. So one of my favorite chapters by far, The Tower. I love the characters in it, and probably because they carried over from a previous chapter, so you got more time with them. But it also had a lot of laugh out loud moments, and just overall, because I've physically been to this location, it was really fun to read about, like, a present day, like, reenactment of how it was built and why it was built the way it was. And I really liked that. So anywho, that was the most briefest summary of each chapter. I encourage you to jump over to the playlist and feel free to run through each of the chapters. There's a little bit more specific information there, a little bit more of the characters and what they do in each chapter. But if you feel good about what I just mentioned, feel free to jump right on into next Sunday, or if you're watching this, after the fact, you can go into the playlist. I will put all of the chapters into my London playlist as they occur. This will be every Sunday until we are done. So if you want to grab a copy of London, I am reading it physically, but I also have it on Audible. And am making notes. You can see this is from the first time I read, and I'm slowly getting rid of those as I put in that now what I've read. So I'm a weird note taker, and I've been highlighting this time. So it's been an interesting read, especially since the first couple of chapters I have read now at least 3 times. So it's a fun read if you want to grab that. If you don't want to read it, but you just want to stick around and find out what it's about, please feel free to join as well. And thank you for everyone who has stuck around and waited so very patiently for me to get my act together. So I'm happy to start this project once again, and this time we're going to finish it. We are going to plow through and we are going to get this done, and we are going to have some fun. So leave some comments below on anything that you've read. If you've already finished the book, or if you've just started, let me know. But I'm very much looking forward to reading this through with you and letting you know what each chapter is all about. So until next time, I hope you all are taking care, staying safe, and reading something fantastic. Until then, happy reading. Bye.